Let me put in some context sort of how China and the United States fit in Africa today, at least from my optic. And I'll do it in the context of what are our respective interests in Africa. And when I talk about interests, I'm talking about hard interests. What do China and the United States want from Africa, not what they can do for Africa.
Africa, also known as the Mother Continent, with a population of about 1.4 billion people, is the second largest continent in the world. For decades now, there has been an ongoing debate on what both countries of China and the United States have always wanted from Africa, having seen what years of European invasion has done to the Mother Continent. A number of people have come up to speak on this matter, ranging from ordinary people to politicians and other people in high places. And this was the case when in November of 2017, a United States diplomat, Ambassador David Shinn, went public giving 5 reasons of each why both countries of China and the United States have growing interest in Africa. Take a look. China. Access to natural resources.
85% of all African exports to China are oil and minerals or other natural resources. About 85% of all Chinese exports to Africa are value-added manufactured goods.
Political support.
China wants the support, the political support, of as many African countries as it can obtain. 54 countries in Africa. When I talk about Africa, I use the whole continent. I don't divide it into sub-Saharan and North Africa. So China wants the political support of as many of the 54 countries as it can possibly get. China has diplomatic relations with 52 of the 54 countries. Burkina Faso and Swaziland recognize Taiwan.
Diplomatic recognition.
It would like to see Burkina Faso and Swaziland at some point switch their representation from Taipei to Beijing. So that's interest number 3.
Market.
Exporting the maximum amount that it can to African countries because that earns foreign exchange for China. Now, the African market in the grand scheme of global trade is not huge for China. It's only about 5% of China's global trade. Nevertheless, 5% is 5%, and it would like to increase the amount of exports that it sells to the African countries.
Damage control.
To avoid all of the potential negative problems that could negatively impact Chinese interests or the Chinese presence in Africa or in the waters around Africa or conceivably even in the Chinese homeland. This is everything from countering terrorism to avoiding international crime, anti-piracy, narcotics trafficking, anything that's bad, that's negative, that could harm Chinese interests or personnel in Africa. It wants to avoid. Those are the 5 things that China wants from Africa.
United States. Access oil reserves.
Well, it wants access to oil and, to a lesser extent, minerals.
Political support.
It wants the political support of as many African countries as it can obtain. The U.S. has diplomatic relations with all 54 countries on the continent.
African market.
It wants to export as many American products to the continent as it possibly can. It doesn't have this issue of Taiwan, so that's the one distinction between China's policy and U.S. policy that separates us in terms of what our hard interests are.
Damage control.
The United States also wants to avoid all of the negative issues that I listed in the case of China. Those same negative factors apply to the United States, and the U.S. wants to make sure those don't impact the United States negatively.
Military bases.
And the United States has a 5th interest, which China does not yet have, but perhaps which China is approaching, and that is that the U.S. wants to have access to African ports for U.S. naval vessels. It wants to have the ability to overfly the continent for U.S. military aircraft as necessary, and it wants to be able to land in African airports as necessary in order to support whatever military operations it might have around the world. As I say, I don't think China is at this point yet, even with its new facility, military facility. I would argue it's a base in Djibouti. Maybe China will be at this point, at some point in the next 10 years, but not there yet. Let me just say also generally that the one thing about Africa in terms of the China-Africa or the China-U.S. connection is that it's essentially neutral territory. It's the one part of the world where neither the United States nor China has sort of deep core interests, and therefore it makes it a location where there can be cooperation more effectively and more easily than in any other part of the world. Asia is obviously considered to be in the backyard of China. Latin America is in the backyard of the United States. Europe is closely aligned, for the most part, with the United States. And these are areas that are somewhat more difficult in terms of China-U.S. cooperation. Because Africa is essentially a neutral location, it does, I think, lend itself far more readily to U.S.-China collaboration. And I've been making that argument for years, and I continue to believe that is the case.
Alright guys, so that's it for this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also share your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you are new for more videos like this. Until next time, peace out.